All right, so I'm at IMI Motorsports Park or something like that. Right now they're doing an open track with the motorcycles, and I'm gonna go on the same track with this cart that's right in front of me. It looks like there's no seatbelt on the cart, which is very interesting because that almost makes me think of the real race carts that I've never had a pleasure of driving, and those race carts don't have like seat belts or anything like their typical rental carts. So yeah, and I wonder if this guy ran out of gas. I'm not sure you can see him.
Perfect. You excited?
What's that holding?
What's up?
What's that holding?
That's what's up?
Can you put my kickstand down?
Yeah.
Fucking prairie dog, bro.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Mid-turn, ran in front.
Oh my god, you hit him?
I swerved to avoid him and I didn't hit him, but I low slid it.
Did you keep it up? Oh no. I see.
It's fucked.
Damn.
Yeah, the side cover.
Damn.
Oh!
This is so this is the belts. These are the belts. And this is the axle.
Okay.
Holding everything together.
All right. Hey guys, welcome to Car Track Reviews. It's Steven, as always. We're going to go over IMI Motorsports Complex in Dacono, Colorado. Yeah, this one's not in the typical area that I usually go to. Took a trip out there. So let's go over it. Pricing is a little interesting. They don't have any memberships or anything like that. You basically just go there and pay for however many races you want to do, and you do it. Their first race is $50, which is honestly on par. And the reason why it is on par is because it's 15-minute races. So instead of 7-minute races or 8-minute races, you get 15-minute races. So in reality, if you were to compare it to my typical area, New England and New York and that area, it lines up. It's $50 a race over there. Over here, it's like 25 to 30 per 7-minute race. So it lines about up, and if not, it might even be a little bit cheaper out in Colorado, near Denver and Dacono. For $75 though, you can get 2 races, so that drops it down to $37.50 per race, per 15-minute race, which is actually kind of good. My only problem is that I don't really like much about this place. It's not really appealing, and it's definitely for someone that's maybe passing through, kind of like myself. So for pricing, I give it a 7, even though the pricing is kind of okay, but for what you get is not that great. Alright, so the carts. The carts are... They seem like they were either former competition carts or maybe old school carts where you didn't have a seat belt, so no harness or anything holding you in, and that's totally fine with me. Not a pro, not a con by any means, and honestly, competition carts don't have seat belts or anything like that, at least from what I've seen in the amateur world, so, or in professional as well. Unfortunately though, because these cars seem kind of old, they're not very reliable. I went through one cart. The first cart that I went through was not very good. The first cart kept stalling. The second cart, the steering was a little bit off, and then the tires were awful. I think probably 8 minutes into the 15-minute session, the tires were pretty much just giving out, and when I was finally getting comfortable with the track, it didn't matter because the tires were awful. Also, the seating position for the carts was pretty dumb as well. Another reason why I believe it's probably either an old school cart or a former competition cart is because the seating felt like it was made for one person. As in, you couldn't really adjust the steering wheel, you couldn't really adjust the seating or the pedals. So I think the seat was the only thing you could adjust, and that was barely enough. So I ended up having to put like an extra race suit, because they make you wear race suits there, and I put an extra one folded up into my lower back to kind of push me forward, and that helped. So unfortunately for these karts, I have to give them a 6, even though they are gas. They seem okay in terms of speed, but they could be a little faster, I feel, for the track, to make it just a little bit more fun. But the tires are crap, so honestly, no matter how fast you make it, you're going to be restricted by that. So for track flow, this one's kind of interesting because it's a multi-use track. So in other words, first off, it's outdoors. Second, it is used by different forms of motorsport, per se. You have the karts, the rental cars. Then they do actual karting racing there, so like amateur racing. Then they also do motorcycles go on that track as well, which I found kind of interesting. I alternated with motorcycles at that location. I found that pretty interesting. Actually, there's a guy who tried to avoid a prairie dog and ended up sliding on his bike and ruining his side cover. So, you know, if for some reason he's watching this video, I hope you're doing alright. Hope your bike's okay now. Looked like it was pretty easy to fix, but you never know. And then back on that again, prairie dogs were pretty common there. I had to avoid like 2 or 3. It wasn't terrible because I would have just ran over them, to be honest, if they got in the right spot, but it looked like they kind of avoided me for the most part, so it wasn't terrible for me. Plus I'm on 4 wheels, not 2. There were a lot of holes on the track to avoid, and unfortunately for that, the track then made the track flow kind of weird. In other words, you had a lot of holes in the track that basically prevented you from going on the racing line or the typical racing line, and kind of ruined the experience there. Also, even if you did avoid some holes, it ended up putting you in some other holes, so you'll actually probably see a lot of me bumping up and down and all that, and then it was not very comfortable. Not that I expected it to be comfortable, it is a motorsport, but again, you know, some of those or all of those holes can be fixed pretty easily. There was somewhat good elevation changes there. It might be hard to see on the camera, but there were some good ones there. Not as good as some other tracks that I've been to, but you know, the elevation change was there. It existed. Another problem with the place that I've noticed is that, I guess maybe I'm spoiled, but I'm used to seeing lap times, and unfortunately, not even after the fact do you get to see lap times at this location. So you have no screen on the track to see your current lap time while racing, but then you also don't even get to know your lap time after. So you have 0 things to compare to, which I find kind of disappointing. The track was pretty dusty, but you're talking, you know, lowlands, Colorado, still a mile high, but lowlands, so it's very dusty, very desert, so you're gonna have a lot of that on the track. So, but unfortunately, you know, I do have to kind of count that against it. So for that, I give them a 6 on track flow. If they could fix the holes and maybe add some sort of lap recording device, you know, even just being able to see it after you're done with your session would be nice. Just so you at least have a gauge, maybe for your next one, you can see if you're doing better or worse by the next session. I would also think that would encourage people to race more, because they're like, oh, I gotta beat that lap time. Alright, so I arrived in the morning, probably 20 minutes after open, or something like that. They were nice initially. They were very kind initially, very forthcoming with information, and also kind of at least excited to get me going. But pretty quickly, I ended up spending a little too much time there for being the only one. They didn't really have the rental karts prepared. They didn't have the track ready. The personnel wasn't ready. So I ended up spending way more time than I wanted to when I got there. So, and I think that that's in part because it is a multi-motorsport complex, so they don't really have a reason to be prepared. But I honestly don't see the justification for that, even with that information, so I'm not sure. So because they were nice but unprepared, I had to kind of knock them a little bit. I gave them a 7. It just, it kind of wasted a lot more of my time than I wanted to, and I should have just been able to get there, get on track, and get going. So for a summary, for pricing, they got 7. For gas, they got 6. For track flow, they got 6. And for customer service, they got 7. And for all that, they get a total of 26 out of 40, which is honestly not terrible. But they can do a much better job with a couple things at least. Again, the track condition, a lap timer, maybe better maintained karts, and that would honestly fix most of the problem. So thank you guys again, as always. Thank you for watching this car track review. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, like it if you like it, dislike if you don't like it. If you dislike it, comment and say why you don't like it so I know and I can improve on that. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you at the next video. Take care.